It is the 5th of July, and our reading this day in Baptist history is Pioneering Baptists in Arkansas. Our text of Scripture is Matthew chapter 10 and verse 16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. After the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 and a treaty that had been made with the Osage Indians, land grants were given for the settlements of what became Arkansas Territory and later the state of Arkansas. The grants were first given to those who lost all their possessions in the earthquake of New Madrid, Missouri in 1811. Later, soldiers who had served in the War of 1812 were able to possess grants of land. It was not until 1819 that President James Monroe signed an act declaring Arkansas a territory. In 1836, Arkansas entered the Union as the 25th state. Baptists were among the immigrants pushing westward across the Mississippi. The first Baptist preacher to pass through what became Arkansas Territory was probably John Clark, who traveled on foot from the extreme frontiers of Missouri to Florida around 1810. Benjamin Clark, James Philip Edwards, organized the First Baptist Church in 1818. Edwards had been sent by the one-year-old Bethel Baptist Association to preach and organize churches in the lower part of the Missouri Territory, which later became a part of the Arkansas Territory. During his first year, Edwards traveled more than 1,000 miles visiting the widely scattered pioneer settlements. This truly was a perilous ministry as he traversed Indian territory and rugged terrain. By 1836, Baptists had planted about 40 churches and had begun several associations. George Gill, another Baptist preacher, moved to northeast Arkansas and settled on the White River at a place called Mount Olive, where he preached his first sermon on Christmas Day in 1814. He was a true pilgrim, traveling from Virginia to South Carolina, then to Missouri, and finally into Arkansas. Here he spent the remainder of his life. After he had resided in Mount Olive for 6 years, an Indian raiding party forced a man of God across the river, and I quote, "He not only preached and organized churches in this area, but he also wrote for David Benedict's Baptist Almanac, recording much about his own work as well as that of other early Baptists with the state." End of quote. A group from Kentucky moved west and settled on the Forsyth-Thomas River around 1815. The Caleb Lindsay family was among this group. Caleb was a farmer, a father, surveyor. In a cave near his home on the Forsyth-Thomas River, Lindsay conducted the first tuition-free school in the area in 1816. Baptists planted churches in the northeastern part of the state and then spread through the central and southern part, gradually fanning out over the remaining area. The Baptist distinctive of the autonomy of the local church helped to establish the earliest churches through the efforts of individual missionaries, preachers, and lay people, as well as through association-sponsored mission work. Wherever a few persons of like faith resided in a community, they could unite into a body of believers. Frequently, churches began with as few as 5 or 6 members and would grow as people settled into the area. Most of the settlers had been influenced by the frontier revival and awakening of the early 1800s, and they brought with them a powerful evangelistic spirit. They came eager for worship and fellowship and armed with a burning desire to win others to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. As the population of Arkansas multiplied, so did Baptist churches. The American Baptist Home Mission Society was formed in 1832 and sponsored quite a number of missionaries in Arkansas. Silas T. Tancred was ordained at Brasher's Creek in Shelby County, Kentucky, and was held in high esteem among his fellow Baptists as a young preacher of excellent attainments. Silas was a silversmith and jeweler by trade when he came to Little Rock in 1824 to join his brother-in-law Isaac Watkins. Shortly after his arrival, he placed the following announcement in the Arkansas Gazette, and I quote, "For the promotion of morality and the prosperity of the Redeemer's kingdom in this part of the world, I desire to constitute a regular Church of Jesus Christ on the 4th Saturday of July at the State House in this town, but if any public business should interfere, the constitution will take place at the house of Mr. Isaac Watkins at 11 o'clock a.m. Those persons who have been regularly dismissed from regular Baptist churches are notified to attend and are invited to engage in the work if they wish to do so. The great design of regularly organized churches is to help Christians forward their progress to Zion and to operate as a check upon vice and immorality, and thus become the salt of the earth, or as a light in the midst of a dark and benighted land, to guide the footsteps of weary travelers to the mansions of eternal glory. And in order to carry into operations the will of heaven, it is necessary to become a regular constituted Church of Jesus Christ in order to carry on the public worship of God, maintain the ordinances of the gospel, together with a great many other solemn duties imposed on us by the great head of the church, for our comfort and consolation, that we may wait upon God without distraction and serve him in the beauty of holiness. Signed, Silas T. Tancred, a minister of the Regular Baptist Church, Little Rock, July 5th, 1824. End of quote. With Silas Tancred presiding and Isaac Watkins acting as clerk, the church was organized in the Watkins home in Little Rock on July 24, 1824. In November of the same year, Tancred led in the organization of the Little Rock Association of Regular Baptists, the first of its kind formed in the territory. Isaac Watkins was born in Virginia on April 10, 1777. His uncle, George Watkins Walton, was a signer of the Declaration of Independence and served as governor of Georgia. Isaac Watkins' father was later migrated to Kentucky, dying at an early age and leaving a small estate and a large family. Isaac grew up in Shelbyville, Kentucky, becoming a man of influence and wealth. He obtained a good education, acquired a blameless reputation, and was commissioned as a major in the Kentucky militia. When Mrs. Watkins arrived in Little Rock, there was only one other woman, Eliza Cunningham, the wife of Dr. Matthew Cunningham. These were rugged times. These, yes, were difficult circumstances into which men and women brought their children. They were also times of great opportunity as the people struggled for survival and were oftentimes driven to the Lord, in whose presence they became aware of the sinful, rebellious state of their unregenerate hearts. The gospel of Jesus Christ shines brightest in the darkest hour. We too live in a dark hour, but our affluence seems to blind us to our desperate need. We become at ease in Zion as the multitude around us grope in darkness. May God grant us the spirit of our pioneering forefathers. To God be the glory.